you are playing these big games, the fans are easily supercharged, and they can react seeing what the players will be doing. I'll give you an example of one official that I spoke to during that time that Dynamos had a captain who was so influential. So when he was talking to that captain, he said there's nothing that you can do, because if I raise my hand, Vietnam will react. And when he gave him a red card, and indeed Vietnam reacted, but that was back in the 90s. So these are the kind of stuff that happens. Once a player is so much influence, especially a senior player, on the fans, and once that player reacts in a certain manner, the fans will act accordingly. And for Highlanders, I've always maintained that the team manager should have done his job to guide these players. He should not have left them to do such kind of things. Remember, just rewind to last year in that game that was abandoned against FC Platinum. He charged the same way, and Rumbeba again the same way. And for me, these are the players that had so much potential, but I'm saying they are lacking guidance, because you can't have such a behavior from players without the team manager or the coaches or the executive reacting to that. I will also rewind back to the time of Dumiso Gumede when he was still at Highlanders. You'd say that even if a player gets an unnecessary red card or expulsion, you'll be charged, because you'll be putting the team on a disadvantage, and also the behavior will put the name of the club into disrepute.
David, I know maybe it's a touchy subject for you being a Caps United son, but I just want to hear your views on some people surprised that Dynamos have also been charged here. Because I contend that yes, the Highlanders fans did charge onto the field, and maybe a few Dynamos fans reacted to that in retaliation, and maybe started throwing missiles as well, maybe trying to defend themselves. Are you surprised that Dynamos have also been roped into these disciplinary proceedings?
Yeah, but as long as they threw something into the field of play, I think, they really need to be charged. But we saw what happened, and everyone saw. There's so much evidence that no one can dispute. Highlanders fans reacted, to a decision that they never got, and that even, infuriated some of their players. As much as I was when they tried, to talk to his, superiors, which are the players as well, and. For Peter Mudua, I think I have so much respect for him as a centre back, and I used to be a centre back. He's a very good player, but in terms of discipline, I think he lacks discipline, Rukuzo. And to be honest, I think he really needs to look at himself. He is one of the senior players at Highlanders at the moment, and especially those that are playing for Boso 90 and some of the youngsters that are even in Blair, to say, could he even one of Peter as a role model, and with the way he behaves in the field of play, I think he really needs to look at himself and say, you know what, I really need to repent and be one of the best centre backs. You don't need to be recognized. But someone anotamba bora memoyo zokuti chero mwana akazvipa zita rekuti ndonzi Peter Mudua, mwana yanenge achizvipa zita iroro, and through hard work, through how Peter plays. But for Dynamos, they are just unlucky because of those few fans that threw missiles into the field of play. So they have to be charged.
Simba, we usually see these charges resulting in a very heavy fine, and obviously a 3-0 scoreline handed to the other team. In this case, it would be Dynamos. Do you think the Premier Soccer League, with all the noise we've been making as media as well as fans about what happened on Sunday, will consider an even heavier punishment for Highlanders this time? And what would it look like if they do?
I think it goes to the statutes, and each and every charge is got its amount of money that you're supposed to pay. So we're just looking at pitch invasion. You also have throwing of missiles, and then the abandonment, causing the abandonment of the match. So I think each and every charge will carry its amount of money. So that's the reason why we have seen in the past the charges getting up to around $8,000 United dollars. It's because of that. And for Dynamos, I think it will be lesser if you saw the charges that were leveled against them. It's few charges as compared to Highlanders. So that's where the difference in terms of money is going to be.
David, do you think that there will be any kind of a harsher punishment, maybe a game without fans behind closed doors, a barber field, something like that?
Yeah, before Rukuzo kuti Highlanders yakamutamba even at 10 a.m. Makusen, without even the fans into the stadium. So I still feel kuti avasi kunyatsorwadziwa nazvo, and also those fines ma 8,000 imari dzinozongobatwa pama prize money. For me, I think they need stiffer punishment.
What is that?
Rukuzo, I think sort of like even magames akadai so kana achididactwa mapoints kana pachiswa a statue yekuti if a club does this in the next 3 years, tongoti in between 5 years, and it mukazvita ka2 ka3 you get relegated, something like that. Rukuzo zvekuti imimega you feel it kuti whenever there is an abandonment of the match, and or if there is a hooliganism inenge yaitwa zvekuti mafines aya, to me I think stiffer penalties will do.
We'll wait and see what the Premier Soccer League decides this time. Will they go the usual route of fines that almost always descends on Highlanders every single season and is still not improving? Let's not forget Dynamos as well. We're also on the receiving end of a heavy fine last season for also causing the abandonment of the same fixture. Now, ZIFA has announced that it is creating what it is calling an exclusive focus group to find ways to combat hooliganism, violence and hate language at local football matches. In a statement released today, ZIFA expressed dismay with the violent scenes at Emagumeni last weekend and linked them to the failure to attract corporate sponsorship to improve the standard of the sport at the top level. As such, the governing body says it will push for any supporter found causing trouble at stadiums to be given long bans from entering grounds around the country. The exclusive focus group will also be tasked with eradicating what ZIFA calls offensive songs and tribal or racial chants, as well as offensive gestures and messaging on placards. How exactly are they going to be able to enforce that, Simba? Regarding, let's not forget, we do not have electronic ticketing. You cannot pinpoint a certain supporter by name sitting in this particular bay on this seat. How are they going to be able to enforce that unless you're having cameras running around the grounds each and every time?
That's where I wanted to go, because as long as we are not investing in technology, it's going to be really difficult, and also statutes that also makes sure that one is going to be banned from entering the stadium. So I think the challenge now is on how they are going to implement it. I would have also loved to have somebody from the normalization committee explaining really what they mean with what they want to implement, because looking at where we are as a nation, I don't think that we are closer to implementing those things in as far as technology is concerned. Maybe when they try to say they have so many marshals from the clubs and monitoring the fans, but again, we have seen some of the marshals being overpowered by the fans.
and David, when it comes to the offensive singing, the offensive chanting, of course, we saw a lot of videos being spread on social media regarding Dimbare fans and some of the songs they were singing there. Any kind of way to be able to stem that, really? Do you think that was also part of the reason why Highlanders fans were so charged up on Sunday? Or just excuse making?
No, that was not the reason. Because the reason was the penalty incident. And for them kuti zvakaimbwa zvezvo ndo zvakakonzeresa kuti Highlanders supporters azodaro, that would be a lie. Vakungotsvaga zvavo pamwe pekuti vatotiza napo, but chokwadi chaicho chiri kutozikanwa kunzi penalty incident ndo yakakonzeresa, because rakatombotambwa bhora for almost 1.5 minutes, and the next thing is paita bhora rabuda panze. The next thing is you find kuti Peter was there charging at the referee, and Rumbeba was there charging at the referee, why didn't you give us a penalty? And but vakadi kubudisa bhora panze, and then player will attend, then continue kutamba bhora because bhora zvarinoita next to 45 minutes dzinobelonga kwamuri. What if Highlanders had won 3-2 or even draw 2-2 in the second half? But ivo vakadecide fete game ravo, mafans ndo vakadecide through Peter and Andrew.
Your messages on the WhatsApp platform. Chris Mario Museki Wanzi, any player found guilty of inciting violence should be suspended for not less than 3 games and also not be called up for national duty as a punitive measure. Very strong punishment there from you, Chris. Then Anzi, I think a point deduction in addition to the 3-0 scoreline should be given against the offending team, and that will make both the team and fans feel the punishment, because my fines, only the club suffers, but if points are deducted, fans might practice some restraint. Anzi, sports team, pacho referees ndiwa anzi honzeri vanotopinda vane side kare muground saka you saying Highlanders fans vagara vanokasika kureacta tisangoblame team pamwe pacho tione masides ose. Of course that is just an allegation, nothing is confirmed at all when it comes to referees there, so let's be careful about accusing the match officials. Anzi is very correct what David is saying. Rukuzo is analyzing football independently as a genius. Besides being a CAPS affiliate, any team which causes hooliganism and such bad behavior needs to face harsh penalties. Remember, there's so many people that have died. Remember what happened with Masvingo United back in the early 2000s. This is now a matter of people's lives. Albert from Copy. And then last one for now, Hansi High Sports Team. I think Peter Mdua should be sanctioned or punished, and let this be an example to other players and captains.
This is the Daily Sports Zone. Star FM, your first choice for sport.
Alright, the Zimbabwe national women's team will play in the COSAFA Women's Championship next month after missing last year's edition due to the FIFA suspension. In today's draw, the Mighty Warriors were placed in Group C along with Lesotho, Namibia and Botswana. This year's tournament is set for Gauteng in South Africa from October the 4th to the 15th. The 3 groups of 4 teams each. The 3 group winners will advance to the semi-finals, joined by the best runner-up across all the groups. Zimbabwe, of course, last won the prestigious competition back in 2011. Simba, no head coach, no, shall we say, squad of any note that has been together, of course, for about a year and a half. Surely we're not expecting anything from this competition. Important to get back into playing, but really we're nowhere near prepared for this competition.
Because I'm just wondering what is taking this long for the coach to be announced, because by now I thought we should have the coach in place and the modalities are being put in place, because we knew about these dates. And if you look at the time that the committee has been placed, it shows that they are behind time in terms of the announcement and the implementation that they are supposed to be doing. And for the team going there, I think it's all about trying to rebuild the team, and nothing much to expect from the girls. And I would think that you take players that are also going to be in the team for a long time. But again, it's really difficult because, like I've always said, that when you try to rebuild, at the same time you also need to get those wins, because the pressure that comes up with the rebuilding is that once you get to have so many defeats, it will also affect your phase of rebuilding.
David, we've tied our own hands behind our backs here. What does success look like at the COSAFA Women's Championship for the Mighty Warriors, considering where we are, especially with the technical department?
Yeah, I think it's more to do with how we're going to assemble the squad. The sooner, the better. We have a substantial coach for the Mighty Warriors, and also I think there's going to be so much changes in that national team. If you look at that, the last time that we played the Mighty Warriors, I think we had so much aging girls in that team, and we are going to have a new look squad, maybe led by Immaculate Msipa so far is the captain of the side, because she was the last captain of the squad and she's still there. So obviously we have a lot of girls that are coming up who haven't even played in the national team before. So exposure for those girls, I think, is the most important thing that is going to happen, and we're not going to be looking much into that. But like what Simba has just said, when you start rebuilding, you need to put in the winning mentality into the girls, so that they get used to winning rather than getting used to be rebuild. So yeah, for us in that group, I think maybe Botswana might be the toughest opponent that we can face, but Lesotho and Namibia, I think we can compete.
Normally Mandi in Southley Park saying good news with the Mighty Warriors return to international football. I hope the normalization committee is going to select a coach currently attached to any women's football club in the top flight, because he or she would know the current players in form. I think that's a very good idea there. And then Anzi, another message here, Highlanders haidi kudyiwa chete, we're still nedimbare manje takanzwa bata ndindadaro ganda govu kuwadzana 5 there. Thank you for listening. Another one, Anzi, You call that a pitch invasion or an emergency exit for a vulnerable Dynamos fan, and you're leaving a photo for me to look at here, and probably in response to, you maybe are also wondering why Dynamos have been hit with a charge of a pitch invasion.
This is football.
Football! I think we have a winner.
Loser. The news is our life. Did you hear what the weatherman said?
Ready for It's the complete radio sports show. The Daily Sports Zone is on right now.
Now, Rugby Africa is satisfied with the preparations carried out by the local organizing committee for the upcoming Rugby Africa Men's Sevens Olympic qualifier that will be hosted this weekend at Harare Sports Club. Zimbabwe Rugby President Aaron Jani, who doubles up as Rugby Africa's treasurer, spoke today at the pre-tournament press conference held at Harare Sports Club and expressed the continental governing body's happiness with the opportunity to provide its member nations with high-level competition as it tries to grow the sport.
As Rugby Africa, we are excited about this tournament. One of the challenges we've had as Rugby Africa is the issue of game time, and this has been a challenge for a number of years. And when we have tournaments like these ones, it's very exciting for us to be able to give our teams some game time at a very high level. So it's very exciting for us as Rugby Africa to hold this tournament. In addition, we are not only looking at picking a team that will represent Africa in the Olympics. We are also looking at bridging the gap that exists between Africa and the rest of the world. This has been a challenge. It's something that keeps us awake as Rugby Africa, and trying to see how we can narrow that gap that exists in terms of Africa and the rest of the world. This is the beginning of many tournaments that we as Rugby Africa would like to hold to increase the level of game time and the level of opportunity for all the teams. And I'm glad that all the African countries, the top African countries in sevens, are being represented here and are being given the opportunity to represent Africa in the Olympics.
That was Zimbabwe Rugby President Aaron Jani speaking at today's pre-tournament press conference ahead of that Rugby Africa Men's Sevens Olympic qualifier. Some more of your messages before we go international briefly here on the Daily Sports Zone. Plenty of them coming through. On the high sports team, we need cameras and high fences for security at all stadiums. In this day and age in Zimbabwe, we are lagging behind so much in terms of these factors. A double G Pafio. Thank you for listening. On the high sports team, no to hooliganism. That's all you have to say. Chenu Kazembe. And then Anzi Isuta Katosia Kuona Premier Soccer League football, hooliganism is not ending. They must just deduct 12 points for hooliganism. Pamwe no Pera, Baba Courage, Ku Borodale, last one for now. Anzi high sports team, Dai team Yangu, Manchester United Ika wina opa Brighton apa titange o tirimo mu race. I think you mean in the title race. Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting game. Brighton, Hove Albion, of course, no pushovers these days in the Premier League.
This is World Sport on the Daily Sports Zone.
Speaking of the Red Devils, more club statements coming out of Old Trafford today. The club confirming that Jadon Sancho is training away from his teammates following his comments on social media after being left out of the squad against Arsenal back on the 3rd of September. The statement of the club reads, Jadon Sancho will remain on a personal training program away from the first team pending resolution of a squad discipline issue. David, do you think Jadon Sancho has a future at Manchester United now? Already hearing suggestions the club is looking to move him on in January. Can he make his way back into Eric Ten Hag's good books?
Yeah, the problem didn't start at Manchester United, Rukuzo. I think it started when he moved to Borussia Dortmund. You know, in terms of time keeping, missing meetings, you know, a whole lot of things that he has done. I think at Dortmund they tried, you know, to have him move around most of the time with Erling Haaland, but it didn't work out. I think that's why they had to sanction, you know, to sell him to Manchester United when they wanted him, and I don't think they even, you know, spoke club to club about his behavior. Because even last season when he was sent to Holland, I think it was those same issues. I think he has got problems that needs to be, to be sorted as quickly as possible. Look, he's still young and he's a fantastic footballer, but with the way he's behaving, I think his football career is going to go down, because at the age of 22 he can't be doing that. At least he could be, someone I would rely on Manchester United, but with problems now with Manchester United, way there's Jadon Sancho and Anthony as well. So United, they don't have a choice, but they have to, sort out issues, and that's why they had to suspend him. In the next 10 days, are you going to change?
David, you're a chief scout, of course. When it comes to recruiting players, shouldn't you also be looking at the character of them, not just his quality on the ball, what he does during matches, the quality of what he does off the pitch, his training, his professionalism? Do you think Manchester United, shall we say, didn't do their due diligence under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer when they went for Jadon Sancho? Should they be surprised by what's going on now?
I think they looked much of his footballing, personnel. I think besides looking at him, outside the field, can he be a very good role model or even an influencer to the young upcoming boys, since he was also young? And there are a lot of things that you look into, Rukudzo, especially nowadays where there are drugs, that are being used by youngsters, and especially in terms of anger as well, mental health issues, I think, and that's where I think Manchester United didn't do, much of a research about him. Why Man City did let him go when he went to Borussia Dortmund, and Dortmund sold him to them. I think I think that's why they're having problems with him.
Simba, you can talk to me about Jadon Sancho, but I also want you to touch a bit on Manchester United itself. It's club statement after club statement all this time. We know what happened with Anthony now. He's also been basically, banished from the squad until he fixes his domestic abuse situation. Jadon Sancho now training on his own. We know what happened with Cristiano Ronaldo last season. The club is in all kinds of mess on and off the pitch. Talk to me about where is this coming from? This is one of the biggest sporting institutions, never mind football institutions, but they're being run like a circus. Talk to me about Manchester United. What's going on, man?
But somebody who likes disciplinary codes, I would like to think that, of course, yes, what they are doing, some people might question it. But again, you'd need to instill that discipline within the team, because look at what Ronaldo did last time before he was banished out of the club. But, for a player to criticize his club like that, in the open, for me, it was uncalled for. Yes, for Anthony, it might be a different issue, but for Sancho, I think, you need to show some respect to your boss, and you also need to show some respect to the institution. Yes, for Anthony, I might agree that, they aid there, but for these other two incidences, I think that at any given time, a player should be exemplary, should have a lot of discipline. Look, we were talking about Paul Pogba yesterday, and how his career is now going towards the end. And, if you look at it, the way that he also has carried himself, handled himself, has affected his career. So for me, I've always wanted players that are disciplined. Yes, people may say that for a star player, you need to have ego, but I still believe that as a player, you should be a team player, and you also need to have that discipline.
Your messages on the WhatsApp platform to wrap up today's Daily Sports Zone. Anzi, no Anthony, no Sancho. Interesting to see how Manchester United will cope without these, because they're already injury plagued. I think this is now the chance for Facundo Pellistri in particular to take his chance on the right side of the forward line for the Red Devils. Love Mukashawa Kwazanawan. Anzi, PSL should enact cameras that record at matches for hooliganism. Plus, may we try to use VAR on the local screened matches for a referee to use for that disputed Boso penalty. VAR costs money. Love more. VAR costs a lot of money, and if we keep chasing away corporate sponsors, we're never going to be able to afford the VAR at all in Zimbabwean football. Anzi Peter Mdua Andrew Mbeba ku Highlanders vanonetsa vanhu ivava ngavambobhanwa gore rese kuti mbare kuna Shadrack Nyawa as well Hans Wewo Tinto Mudimbare obviously Okay, at least you are very fair in your criticism there, Tito Mudimbari. Of course, you also say Shadrack Nyawa, according to you, is also kind of a problem. Radio Monitor Budiro 5, Anzi, PSL, they should, Anzi, what's the English here is a bit tough. Anzi, PSL, they should be far. What's wrong? What wrong did Dynamos do? The supporters of Dimbari were protecting themselves from being attacked. That's why they invaded the pitch. So you're defending Dynamos. And then Ikechuku, last one, and the PSL Yangoti Highlanders yaprezisa magame ayo asara ichishandisa Nyamunga Stadium as a home ground all the way up in Kariba. Yeah, that will certainly go down well with Vulayo fans. Okay, that's it for today's edition of the Daily Sports Zone. Big thanks to SimbaChiminya and David Sengu for being my pundits. We'll be back again tomorrow evening, 6:05 down to 6:30. I'm leaving you in the hands now of the only black man who dreams in English in Zimbabwe, the Skywalker Ndumiso. Today's edition of the After Drive, and then of course come back again tomorrow evening 6:05 for the Daily Sports Zone on Star FM, your first choice for sports.